So remember, Truman is the guy holding the newspaper that says Dewey wins. They were that confident. Now there is somebody else who's saying a similar thing. He brought up the Truman-Dewey thing, but his model, the primary model is what it's called, that he came up with in 1995 and has predicted correctly all of the presidential candidates since 1995. He's giving Donald Trump a 91% chance of winning in November. He said that over the last 108 years, he ran the same model. He takes all of the opinion polls out. He doesn't care about opinion polls. All he cares about is how excited is the base for the candidate. He says because Biden has nothing going on for him except the opinion polls. But when you actually talk to people, everybody's like, I don't want to vote for that guy. I mean, I'm going to vote for him, but isn't there anybody else? He says because of the way he performed in the early primaries is what his calculation always takes into account. He says that Donald Trump is going to win handily in the Electoral College and actually win with a bigger spread this time.
Wow. Oh, I mean, it's not impossible. I think a lot of what you said, those things do align. I would still give him less than a 91% chance of winning the election at this point.
Okay,
but
here it comes. Here it comes.
No, look.
No.
I think
here it comes. He's going to rain on our parade. You're going to harsh my mellow. I got it.
I would point out, first of all, when you have an early primary model, which is when you have those early early elections that happen before a global pandemic, and then a global pandemic happens, I do think that it's going to be tough to take historical
and a revolution.
Precedent. Yeah, and on top of
We've never had this. We've never had this. I mean, I think the closest we've ever come to this kind of situation is the Civil War. I mean, you just can't predict this at all because I don't think they're done. Everything has been so well coordinated that I have no idea what they have planned for the fall, but they're not going to be sitting on their hands.
Right. And, there is I think that's the reason why people are overlooking Trump right now. It's this idea of, well, his polls look terrible. Well, frankly, they do look terrible, and they look worse than they did against Clinton. And it's not really all that close. That being said, how many things has, Donald Trump even said about Joe Biden? Like, there's no passion against Joe Biden right now because no one has done anything to show him even in a negative light. Donald Trump's done, what, 3 campaign speeches so far? We've seen no development of this campaign. So right now what you have is a lot of people with a lot of passion for Donald Trump and a lot of people with a lot of passion against Donald Trump. I mean, certainly this election is going to, at its core, be a referendum on the way that Donald Trump has handled his first 4 years as a president. He's a big enough personality that it's going to be impossible to make this election about Joe Biden entirely. But still, all he has to do is keep it close. And once people start really thinking about this, looking at Joe Biden, watching him have these moments where he can't remember the most basic thing or pronounce the most basic word, it's going to change, I think, a little bit. And we know that Trump brings pressure. And who knows what
right.
Joe Biden does under that sort of pressure.
Do you believe that Joe Biden will be able to get away with not having a debate? I think that's what they're going for right now.
And they're
trying
smart to do it.
All these conditions. They're very smart to do it. But do you really think at this time, the most important election, this one really is? This one is. This is the end of the road for the Republic, I think. Do we really not have any debates between the two people vying for the job of running our country for the next 4 years? We just say, nah, we don't need a debate. Really?
Obviously don't think that's the right way to approach it. But if you take yourself out of it and put yourself as a Democratic campaign aide, You do everything you could to keep these two away from each other and not on the stage at the same time.
What I'm asking you is, will the average American accept that?
Under normal circumstances, I would say no. I think the one worry you'd have if you're the Trump administration is that people, because Donald Trump is such a big personality and so many people have had their mind made up on him already, there's less of a concern about what the alternative is. And that's a scary thing to say. But I really don't think there is at least 45% of this country that sits back and says, I don't care who it is if it's not Donald Trump. Now, there's also 40 to 45% of people who say, I don't care who the other person is, I must have Donald Trump. So you get to a baseline pretty quickly. Those people in the middle, I think, are interesting in that one of the good things about Donald Trump being able to dominate the news cycle, he has that unique talent to do that more than any president in, I think, American history. I mean, he can dominate a news cycle, but it tires people out. And when you're in a situation where you have a global pandemic and all of these other things, if he looks like he's handled these things really well when it comes to November, then I think he's got a real chance. If it looks like, if people have this impression that he's done this bad job or has been incompetent in his handling of this one big crisis he's had to face, not to mention the other ones going on, I think it's going to be really difficult. One of the reasons why, and this is separate a little bit, but it's like the whole thing about masks and taking all these precautions and not rushing to open, I understand it completely from a personal liberty standpoint. I understand it completely from the standpoint of just like, you know what, I don't think they work, or whatever your personal opinion is. From a political standpoint, I don't understand it at all. Why wouldn't you take every precaution necessary? Even if you thought it was a 1% chance it would make things better, to keep this situation, if it's out of control in November, Donald Trump probably has no chance to win. So why wouldn't we do everything we possibly could if you are a person who thinks Donald Trump it would be the better option going forward to minimize this disease? Why would you risk going out all the time? Why would you fight? Why would you shame people who are throwing masks on and looking like ducks, like these duck masks that people are wearing around? It's just, I don't think politically it works.